Hey everybody, we are winging this a little bit. This is Nikki Burnett. I am a functional nutritionist and Taste Life Nutrition is my practice. I'm here again with Lowell Whiteman, who is he's a coach of collegiate athletes, professional athletes, and he has a great radio show, 360 Performance Radio. And so we are going to talk about caffeine, and we're actually here at Starbucks. So this is the first time for me to be at Starbucks and talking about fun stuff when it comes to caffeine and performance. Is it good? Is there a myth? What's the data show? So I'm winging the camera just a little bit. But anyway, everybody meet Lowell. I know you
And now you can talk to that.
Okay, hey.
That's our Ustream audience out there. And that,
Okay.
Our camera for Ustream's up here. So we're going to be talking to them. That's all over the country. Actually, all over the world. But depending on the time of day. They may not need their caffeine, they may need their caffeine. It all depends.
Probably as long as it's not midnight, right?
Yeah, so we're almost right on time,
Okay.
and so that was a great intro. Yeah, and I'm gonna argue with her a little bit, with Nikki, about we're not winging this. This is just who we are. This is like organic.
Well,
It's
I guess
natural.
when I say winging, I have this really crazy view of us on my Facebook Live.
I like that.
So
does that define who I am? That crazy? That level of crazy?
A little bit, yeah.
I think. And when I mention it again, Starbucks is great, both for as a product and me, but we have to honor their requests. There will be no shots of anybody in the store, because that's just legal
Sure.
thing. We
Yeah,
have to
of
get
course.
sign-offs and stuff.
Yep.
So if you're wondering why we're not showing anybody, that's why. The other thing that we're going to do is we haven't got the approval yet. I want to get to this place at a point in the future where we're going to talk about specials and beverages and that kind of stuff. So we might redo a show on caffeine and actually
Drink some coffee.
yeah, and that would be kind of cool. And actually
would be
talk
cool.
about what it is that's in the cup that's special.
Yep.
I know for me it's a chai latte hot. Did you know there's a cold version? of it?
Yes, yeah.
So now
I
we
like the
have to-
chai lattes, but they get a little bit sweet for me.
Well, I get that spicy version
Oh
where
yeah.
it's got a little heat to it.
Oh.
In addition to being hot, it's spicy.
So it revs up your metabolism
Yeah,
too.
I don't know if it's curry or not, but it's something, some spice in there.
Yeah.
Okay, enough
Cool.
of that preamble. So I'm going to introduce our show again today. It's about caffeine and how it influences human performance. So it could be a performance off the athletic field, but I want to focus on athletes a little bit more, and Nikki's going to help me do that. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki. She's going to be your guide for today from a functional nutritionist point of view, and at times where it's necessary, she feels like I can add something to the conversation, which is probably not often.
I think you'll add a lot to the
But
conversation.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. So we're going to talk about caffeine, and should you consume it? How much should you consume? Why should you consume it? And its impact on you as a performer. And in that consumption, is there different ways I get the caffeine? I know for me, coffee's it. That's my
Okay.
that's my go-to jam is coffee. But you've got tea, you've got power drinks.
Oh,
Food.
the
Don't you have
energy
food too?
drinks. Chocolate.
Yeah, okay. Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Chocolate makes you happy.
Yeah. And then the word influence. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, I drank my coffee, I'm too caffeinated, I'm all shaky and that kind of stuff. Those are kind of trite and too common. I want to know from your perspective
Sure.
about what influence does caffeine have on my body. Now, as I'm getting older, I have to worry about calcification.
Yeah.
And caffeine, I heard, has some impact on plaque. Yeah?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
I did some pretty decent research. I did not really see anything. There are more positives, I think, than there are
Okay.
negatives. But it's a matter of, like you said, where you're getting the coffee from. Or I'm sorry, where are you getting the caffeine from? What are you drinking? How are you drinking it? What's in it?
Gotcha.
Right? And there are lots of the specialty coffees now. You've got
Yeah.
the bulletproof coffee and these things. And so it's so important in my mind and in my world to take the person into consideration. because each person is unique in their genetics, in their biochemical makeup, in their stress levels. Caffeine can increase cortisol levels. So if you already have high cortisol levels, then you want to consider when or how much caffeine you're drinking. So, I think that that's really important. And understanding, and one of my questions would be for you is when you are working with your athletes, you've got they're doing conditioning. Are you seeing that it's actually improving their game?
It's really
game in many aspects, right? Their mental game, their focus, all of that.
And in that moment, let's take a scenario, for example. I meet them at a gym, for example. We're going to talk about different things, and their primary purpose for being there is lifting weights or conditioning in some fashion. There are many times in the past they've come in with a chai latte or their energy of choice, Monster, whatever drink.
Yeah.
And in the past I said, put that down. Get some water, get some fluid, hydrate.
Yeah.
Almost to say to them, dilute it.
Yeah.
Remove it from your system.
Yeah.
And that's a myth. I didn't have to say that. So I've changed my mindset a little bit. So I have in fact seen an impact with caffeine. Now it's not, if you said to me, well, I haven't had any caffeine today at all, I'm coming to the workout with you, okay, you want me to be more focused, drink coffee, right? Because there's a thought that can enhance your processing, your thinking processes, right? Be more alert. It doesn't have an immediate, it's not like being injected with it.
Right, sure.
So I say to my athletes now, I say, when you get up, have your dosage that you normally have. And I have seen a clarity of thought, especially for my athletes, and I have a number of them that have ADHD or some kind of adjustment to their thinking process as part of their chemistry. And the caffeine tends to level that out.
Isn't that amazing?
Even though it's a stimulant,
they're
at such a high chemical punch with what's going on in their brain naturally. The caffeine kind of cuts through it.
Okay.
So I like that.
Yeah.
So that's my first example of how it influences performance.
Okay. I think that's amazing, and I saw it in the research. What was interesting too to me was there were studies that were done early on. So the myth about caffeine being bad for us and caffeine being a drug, you'll still see that caffeine is considered a drug. But prior to...
Excuse me, I have to have my caffeine.
I'll have your caffeine. Had I been here early enough, I might have had some too. But I had enough this morning. But prior to the current data, the studies didn't take into consideration lifestyle considerations. So it didn't take into consideration smoking, for instance, sitting, exercise or lack thereof. And so they just put coffee in with all of these people without taking that out. And so now when they take those lifestyle things into consideration, it shows that caffeine really doesn't have any negative effects, typically.
Yeah.
Now, we can go back to, and I'll say this and I'll say it a million times over and probably another million times through my lifetime of my career, but it's all individual. And so we actually have the genetics that can make us fast metabolizers or slow metabolizers or moderate metabolizers.
Could be my ADHD guys and gals. They metabolize very, very fast.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
That's a
and
good
so
point.
it is a part of our phase 1 liver detoxification.
Okay.
And so if we have these little genetic variants that make us a fast metabolizer, it actually, the data can show, it can help us with obesity issues. It can help us with cardiovascular issues and with exercise. But if we're slow metabolizers, some of the data shows that we actually may increase cardiovascular problems and can increase blood sugar problems and that kind of thing. But then you go back and you go, wait, it's not just about genetics, it's about every other part of life. So
Nikki, how do I find out if I'm a fast or slow metabolizer?
So you can do something like 23andMe. I work with the data in 23andMe on almost all of my clients, so I can help them with that.
So I should call you.
Well, always.
Is that my plug? See what I did there?
Yeah, that was good. I appreciate
Snuck it right in there. But that being said, though, if I'm a slow metabolizer and I come to somebody, or with my athletes, many times athletes I have that they have trouble keeping weight on.
Yeah,
Okay?
sure.
Because they're burning calories, hundreds and hundreds of calories on every practice. So in getting ready for a game in football season, they want to have their weight at or above that a target. Well, so if they're a fast metabolizer, which that would indicate, should they be drinking caffeine or not drinking caffeine?
Well, so let's look at metabolism in two different ways.
Okay.
So metabolism can be, is a lot of based on the thyroid, right? It can speed up or lower our metabolism. But that's our metabolic metabolism, where this is just a pathway inside of our liver detoxification processes. So they could be have a slow metabolic burn, but have a high detoxification. Essentially is what it is. So quick detoxification of the caffeine. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
A little bit different.
Yeah, so they pull the caffeine out of their system very quickly as a fast metabolizer.
Right.
Slow metabolizer, it sits in there a little bit longer and takes more.
So they have more effects. It can create. That's when it can create the jitters.
Gotcha. So the byproduct of caffeine will last longer for the slow metabolizer.
Right.
Okay, so if you like that jittery feeling, go get more caffeine.
Yeah, no.
No, I didn't.
But some people, I work with people a lot that will say, I can drink caffeine all day. My husband, he can drink it at night and go to bed fine. Yeah.
I can do that.
There are people I can drink half a cup and I'm wired and they feel terrible. And so I pretty much automatically know without even looking at their genetics that there's slow metabolizer.
Another myth, people. To a truth. Yes, caffeine is a stimulant. It would cause certain outward responses like you feel jittery, but don't generalize. The myth is not just because you drink caffeine that everybody's going to be jittery or everybody's going to have difficulty going to bed at night. Because the fast metabolizers like me and her significant other, we process it pretty quickly and we're snoozing, standing up sometimes.
Good to go. Yeah. So everything is individual.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know, while you are working with your athletes, are you particular about the type? If you tell them go get you some caffeine, or okay, you're drinking caffeine, how do you say you're going to do it? Yeah. Or do you back off? Are there certain? Do you care what they're drinking if it has caffeine in it?
Again, years ago I did.
Okay.
Because I was concerned about the myths. I was concerned about the myths.
Well, the caffeine itself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So drinking caffeine, I have now, along with a lot of other nutritional things, supplements, food, stuff I've learned from you, as well as just practicing and watching it. There's certain times I want them to consume it or not consume it.
Right.
So, for example, certain foods within 2 or 3 hours of a game or high competition activity, I don't want you to eat those things because it does certain things to your muscle response, your fluid levels, and that kind of stuff. Now, that being said, to your point about individuals, I want to know about them, which is why I always recommend, I send people to you, or I already have the doctors that they're working with at the team level. Give me reports, give me data on A1C, give me data on their thyroid, give me data on their cholesterol levels, all three components. So I know that when I say to them, excuse me, Crockett, do not eat eggs, milk products, and beef an hour or two before a game. Now with Crockett, you don't have to worry about it because his stomach is so active, he won't hold it in. He'll vomit. But there's more realistically, there are players that I have to say that to them because they will eat that stuff.
Okay.
Because they like it, and it's not going to help their performance.
Sure. Well, so on that, if they were to come to you with, okay, I'm drinking this massive energy drink, lots of caffeine, lots of sugar, all of those things, what do you say to that?
How long? When are you doing it?
So same thing. So it doesn't matter to you if it's an energy drink.
Correct.
Okay.
And when they describe it to me, and I go through a profile, so I understand like you do, and you get an understanding of who are you. And for me, those components are things that will influence their performance at different times of consumption.
Okay.
So if he or she said to me, well, I love my shake, the morning before, and I said, wait a minute, the schedule just changed. Your contest is now 11 o'clock. You don't have enough time based on your, not metabolic metabolism, but your dietary. You don't process the food fast enough. You need to just hammer down fluid so we can rinse some of that through. No guarantees we will. So timing is a huge part of consumption.
Okay. Well, and so that's where we would differ, because if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm drinking this energy drink to get my caffeine every day, I'm like, I would rather you drink coffee.
Good point.
The sugar is not going to do you any favors, especially if you are an athlete.
Well, they have a downer with the sugar, so I rely on you for the specifics to educate me, and also from a profiling standpoint. So with your example, I totally agree with you on the sugar side of things, because there's a downer with that, and I don't need that hitting them in the middle of the game when we now need the second half, your full attention, because that would be detrimental. So there becomes really interesting science, the puzzle that we have to put together.
It does. Well, and that's the interesting thing. And again, it goes back to the individual, and we can say it a billion times, but the individual, you have to work with the individual. You have to know them as an individual. And I'm the same way. I need to know their data, their labs as individuals to understand who they are and how to work with them.
Well, and it's extremely, you're probably in this position as well with your clients. It's extremely hard and challenging to get people to a place of comfort or great feelings about their performance if we don't have the right data.
Right.
It's like we say in computers, garbage in, garbage out, kind of thing. So, anyway, I digress. I do that, Squirrel. We're going to say good morning to Michael Cook. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Good to see you. And thanks for joining us this morning. And also, Miss Kessie, you are such a fan. Miss Kessie is a retired teacher that is one of the world's best promoters of what's that great little poet and writer? What's his name? Back in the day. Oh, I'll think of it in a minute. I'm messing with you, Miss Kessie. I'm messing with you. It's Shakespeare. That's the guy. Okay, so.
Just Shakespeare.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for everybody paying attention to us and listening to us today. By the way, you're listening to 360 Performance Talk. I'm here with Nikki Burnett, functional nutritionist. She is, whether you believe it or not, she's in charge of the show today. And KUHSdenver.com. We are here at a Starbucks in wonderful Westminster, Colorado. Please show up. 92nd and Sheridan, right next to the Payless Shoe Store. Because there's
another one across the street. I know.
Nikki found
That's the one I found.
That's next to the bookstore. So you can stand in the middle of the street and have them deliver.
Because I can set the squishy sheets.
Right, yeah.
So
nice.
we're grateful for them having us here today. We're at about 15 minutes after the hour of 11. I just want to share with you guys some really great stuff that's happening out there in the world of germ and antiseptic control. Happens to be one of the products that I talk about quite a bit. It's from the company AvCare. Go to avcare.com to take a look at the products they have. Now, hold on just a second.
Hi, Tanya.
Yeah. As I move over here, I found out some really great stuff here. This is the AvCare little hand sanitizer. Now, this does not replace what I should tell everybody what soap and water does. Soap and water and the agitation actually moves the bacteria off of your skin. Ready surface. So scrub the countertops really well, wash your hands with soap and water, but then you need a protective barrier, if you will, and that's what Germ Block does. And it's without alcohol, so you're not going to get that dry out, cracking knuckles and bleeding fingernails and cuticles kind of thing, as I know from the nurses and healthcare professionals that I deal with on a routine basis. So that's AvCare. It's AvKare.com, avcare.com, and their Germ Block germicidal hand sanitizer. So that's our, commercial thing we have to do. Just
part of it.
Yeah.
Keep the lights on.
So, Nikki, tell me a little bit more about where you're at with caffeine as something that are there any more myths? Is there something we should know about to promote about caffeine that's worthwhile?
So I think the big myth is that it's bad. And so what the correction to the myth is, it is not bad. It actually can be beneficial, but it depends on our genetics. I think there are things to take into consideration. Organic. Coffee beans tend to be one of the most sprayed crops. They're really high in pesticides. And I'm gonna say two things here because I think it's really interesting. So when I talk to my clients, I tell them, drink coffee, enjoy your coffee, but drink organic. Okay, you don't want the junk. So I came across a study, and I hesitate saying this because I actually didn't read the study. This was part of an article, and that's the thing is I have not read the study, so I don't know who funded it. So we want to be really careful about that. But what it said was that the washing of the beans can get rid of 15 to 58% of the pesticides, and then the roasting can then get rid of 99.8% of the pesticides. I don't know how roasting can get rid of pesticides, but I always tend to lean toward organic to make sure, but that's what one study said. I need to dig into it, but it's interesting
You
that
think it's the
if
temperature?
processing, maybe, but how does temperature get rid of chemicals? I mean, maybe it just...
Well, the heat, I mean,
Yeah.
but I'd be interested to know some of that.
It was really interesting to me, and I thought, okay, I will still say I think organic is best, at least at this point. But our bodies, these pesticides, they're hormone disruptors, and they're all kinds of stuff. So we want to really be careful with the amount of these pesticides that we take in. Another thing to take into consideration is mold. They can be really moldy. And so particularly if you're drinking decaffeinated, the caffeine is a natural pesticide and I think antimicrobial. And so if you're taking away the caffeine, making it decaffeinated, then it doesn't have the ability to protect itself, so it tends to get moldy. And so mycotoxins, especially for some people who are genetically susceptible to their body can't deal with mycotoxins from mold, it can be a big problem.
So what do you think you're saying then about those of us who grind beans at home? The shelf life of the bean in our cabinet. Should be concerned about.
I've been told you don't want to freeze your beans, but
Excuse me, hold on. Let me just digest that a minute. I don't want to freeze my beans. Okay, good.
Which they're actually berry seeds, right? Don't freeze your beans.
That's a bumper sticker. That is a bumper sticker. I'm telling you right now. Don't freeze your beans. I love that. Okay, enough. I digress.
Yes, severely, but that's okay.
That's good.
So, anyway, but yeah,
Sure.
that can inhibit mold. But what is also said is be aware, just like with your food, you want to know where it's coming from, where your beans are coming from, and that they are single region beans, is my understanding. Because if you're going and you're getting the cheap versions and not cheap versions, but cheap coffees, and they've got all the beans all mixed together from all these different regions, they sit longer.
Yep.
And so they can build up the junk, the mold.
So what you're telling me is that if I walk into a coffee shop, maybe it was recommended to me, or maybe I've been there before and I enjoyed it, and I hadn't asked these questions yet, I should ask, how long have you had your beans in your storage? Where did you get them from? And are they a combination of multiple growers in that bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in, but if you really are concerned about it, and people with mold issues should be,
Yep. Those
there are
with
a lot of them
with
out there.
allergies and stuff.
Yeah. So allergies, yes, but there are people that actually have severe sensitivities to mold, and the mold can grow in their lungs.
That's okay.
It's not good, and so it can create really, really terrible issues. And it tends to be a comorbidity, if you will, with like Lyme's disease and stuff like that. It's really interesting, but not good. Point is, we want to be really careful with all food, but we ask the questions. We want to be accountable to our health.
Yep.
And these are some great questions to ask if you have concerns.
Yeah. Is there anything about the brewing process that would create molds? Like I should be asking about how often do you brew? Do you brew it shorter, smaller amounts more often, so that you're not having batches sitting? Any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, especially in the super cheap places.
Kind of
how long
logical.
does their coffee sit?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I would
You
say
mean like the truck stops?
yeah.
Come on, let's just say it. Let's just put it out there.
Put it out
Let's just be
there.
real.
I just would stay away from it. Period. I mean, it tastes like water anyway. I mean.
Oh, you haven't gone to some of the truck stops I've gone to. I mean,
Apparently.
it's like grit. And these guys love it.
And so it's probably been sitting there a
give me the
really long
grit.
time. I don't know.
Yeah. The caffeine is, you can scoop the caffeine out of the bottom of your cup.
I do like really big flavored coffee. I like a heavy coffee. I like an espresso, but I probably won't drink from there.
Have you ever been to Turkey?
I haven't, but my husband has, and it was his
One
favorite
heavy
place
coffee.
in the world, and
Oh.
he loves their coffee.
And they are
Yeah.
extraordinary regarding like Italy, for example. You go to Venice, and the shops have little windows because they're along the water and stuff. So they have little espresso cups.
Yeah.
So I went up, my first time there, I went up, I said, I want an espresso, so I paid my money, and I drank my, oh, this is awesome. So I went back and wanted to get another one. I didn't have to pay for it.
Oh, it's free refills.
Oh yeah, it's like, it's just like here, just take, and they have them lined up.
Wow.
So you just, and I went,
That's amazing.
yeah. So it was really cool.
So here you have to pay for water.
Yeah, you pay once. You pay once there, and it was good. So Venice and Italy was awesome. It's in Turkey. I've been, yeah. So yes, heavy, good bodied, full bodied coffees. You want to, get there, girl. Yeah, it's a place to go.
So good.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Let's see who got. Oh, Steve Steck, awesome. Hey, Donnell, I got you, buddy. Go get some coffee because it's gonna
Enjoy
sharpen
your
up
coffee.
and get some for Michael as well. Oracle. These are my guys down in Houston.
Nice.
They have a gym down there called
Texas.
The Grind.
Texas.
Exactly.
I'm a Texas girl.
And support the Texas girl in the economy. Go get a good coffee down there. So Donnell, good, and recommend caffeine, man. You're hearing it right here. So your workouts get your people amped up. Be more focused on your workouts. But interestingly enough, their workout sessions are called the Grind.
Is that right?
So that's interesting. All right, so tell me a little bit more about what I can share with you regarding the impact of caffeine and myth busting. I think there's some more myths out there that we're probably not focused on yet.
So I'm curious about, so you work with, say collegiate athletes
Mm-hmm.
who obviously they end up many nights staying up studying. How do you see how that affects them? Do you see it affecting them negatively or positively?
Well, the negative impact, there is more positives to it than there are negatives. Because the studies have said that I've read, there is an arousal impact, a positive arousal component to consuming caffeine. The negative is that they tend to study too long, for too long a segments.
Yeah.
And what I try to say to them is break it up into smaller chunks. You're still going to get the benefit of the caffeine, but stay more mechanically aligned with your method. So 20, 30-minute study times. And this goes for all levels, pros, amateurs, the college level. They've got their playbooks. They think they got to hunker down. And too often you've got the ones that have to study really hard at a time when they should have been studying earlier. They're cramming.
Yep. I
They're
never did that.
I had my moments, but usually because something I forgot and I had to add it, so that was the cramming part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more behavioral to know how to incorporate the caffeine into their process than it is the actual caffeine itself. And the other thing is, I'm not so used to the adjustment to caffeine drinks, not coffee. And I'm not talking tea or any of that other stuff. I'm talking about the monster drinks that are out there. And because there's other things like I know you've talked to me about sugar in those, and that's where I really have a problem. So I really monitor being pure and organic with it. I say, guys and gals, just drink coffee or a really good vibrant tea. My favorites are Earl Grey and those blends.
Yep.
And over steep it and really, like you said, full body. Really get it out there. So there's some mechanical things, but it tends to be not so much about the caffeine itself as much as is how are you preparing it, how long are you studying in segments? Because look, once you get the caffeine in you, it's in you.
Right.
It's doing its thing.
Right.
Now use it appropriately. Stay focused on it. And fluid. I also recommend lots of hydration during it because caffeine, as a chemical, has a dehydrating component. So if there's any negative, there's a dehydrating component to it.
So
Yes.
I read that the studies show that that's a myth.
Okay. Talk to me.
I know.
Here.
So
Wanna learn.
that's that we've been told that tea, coffee, they're dehydrators. They did studies on, I believe it was on the military.
So you're saying I can hydrate now.
You-
I'm not dehydrating.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Still not
is-
convinced me.
Well, I didn't bring the study, but anyway.
I thought you said I didn't write the study. It wasn't my study.
Wasn't my study, but I read the study. I didn't bring it.
That's okay.
But yeah, so the studies to date that I've seen are showing that it does not dehydrate you.
Okay.
And so they checked electrolyte balances, they checked, the blood purity, nitrogen, all of these different things, and it showed that it really was fine. It does its thing. It's good for you for the most part. Really high in antioxidants.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Okay, so chemically you're saying there's evidence that definitively shows not a dehydrator.
Right.
And when you add the antioxidants in there, that's even better from the standpoint of, okay guys, you have this huge meal you just had, and I need antioxidants to kind of start getting that nutrient into your system and do what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
The one thing you haven't said yet is, so it's not a dehydrant, but what about hydration? Even though it's not a dehydrator,
The best thing
should
for
I still put more water in?
is always going to be water. Now, I think probably even better that is water and adding electrolytes. Electrolytes are always a good idea, or trace minerals, which electrolytes are going to give you trace minerals. But for some reason you're not holding on to your water. If your cells are taking them up, then that's when you need the electrolytes and the trace minerals and things like that. But you can put, if you wanted to, electrolytes, trace minerals in your coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And
See, as you were explaining that, I had this image of my coffee table.
Mm-hmm.
Big mug of coffee, my Pedialyte.
Pedialyte?
Yeah, because I got to get hydration. I want to get water in there.
Have you looked at the ingredients?
Yeah, I know there's sugar in it.
You gotta stop.
Okay, so what is my alternative? Give me an alternative for my example.
Electrolytes.
Water? Just
Plain
water.
electrolytes.
Okay.
I have a couple of great ones, as well as, like I said, trace minerals
All right,
that
say
I
it.
use
Say
all
them
the
right
time.
now. Give them a pub right now.
So one that I use is actually through Seeking Health.
Okay.
So I use their electrolytes regularly. I think that they're great. The trace minerals I use it's a bottle of liquid trace minerals through. Put me on the spot and I can't
It's
think
okay,
right.
because it's
a
at the
big-
half
it's a
hour,
blue
so it's the
bottle.
time to promote.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Merchandising all over me. So you're going to remember the name. So at some point,
I will.
At a point in time.
Maybe we can look it up. Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, they're going to get a call. And we're going to tell them, we just promoted you on this show that's now on YouTube for you to watch and prove. We have proof for you.
He's teaching.
So Donnell and the guys out there at the grind down in Houston, remember that part of the containers that your people should bring with them during workouts is, don't leave your coffee in the car. They can still drink that. Electrolytes, maybe even put in the coffee instead of a separate container. But you've got these wonderful sources. What are some other sources of electrolytes besides the ones you know, the brands you know?
So one of my favorite companies is Apex Energetics.
Okay.
Apex Energetics and Zymogen are two of my very favorite companies that are really great companies that I
Should they
use
get them
regularly.
from you because you have the benefit from that?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, they're professional lines, and they're specific to practitioners who are nutritionists and
Okay, so you're not going to go on a website and be able to get this. Go to Nikki, and and then she'll do what you need to do. Okay. And once again, let me remind everybody, we're at Starbucks here at 92nd and Sheridan. It's on the west side of the street, next to the Payless Shoe Store and the AT&T Mobile Phone Store, right in between. Wonderful place. I love this place. But like all Starbucks, I have my favorites, and this is one of those. So
It's a big one.
yeah, oh,
it's great. Yeah.
and look, we're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to show you some of this, but we're honoring the request. We don't show anybody or we don't interview anybody. It's just me and Nikki, which is enough. Should be enough. So we're in the second half hour of the show now. I want to also mention that there's huge activity this weekend. The CSU-CU game this weekend. I forget what they call it now, the mountain something or other, and here I was.
Rivalry. Or
Yeah,
something.
and I was a coach for the CSU football team as their mental conditioning coach. I don't remember that stuff. I'm focused on the performance. So that's a big deal this weekend. We have we will soon have the opening of the NFL season. Last night the Broncos played. Who'd they play? Gosh, they played another team. And I'm making light of it, but the seriousness of it is that most of the players you would want to watch in the regular season didn't play last night. the ones who play are the ones who are trying to get on the 53-man roster or make the practice roster. So somewhat uneventful, but we have something to look forward to this week. Also, I should point out to you, next week you will have 360 Performance Talk on Saturday morning. Saturday morning, and not Friday, because we're going to do another remote down at the Sports Column Sports Bar on Blake Street. It's gonna be, oh my gosh, it's gonna be awesome, because the Iowa Hawkeyes, what's my alma mater, one of my alma maters, I'm a CSU alum too in my graduate work, but Iowa Hawkeyes are going to be playing their opening, not their opening game, they play this weekend, but their in-state rivalry against Iowa State is next Saturday at 3 p.m. So we'll be broadcasting kind of a brunchy show.
A brunchy show.
Yeah, we're going to do a brunchy show on the roof of the sports column.
That sounds amazing. I might join you.
We got some
mimosas?
great. Oh yeah. We're gonna have. In fact, Kyle, the general manager, he has a mimosa, some kind of mimosa special for every weekend, and every table has this huge container.
Oh no!
Oh yeah!
Oh no!
Oh yeah! It's like a 30 milliliter container of mimosas. I go in. It's not my drink of choice, but that in itself is an image. Big glass container, and so anyway.
That's amazing.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great atmosphere. I may not actually get home until. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But
the show is a 4-hour show.
Yeah. The show will be at 11 on Saturday. It's a brunchy show highlighting Iowa Hawkeye alumni and the Iowa Hawkeyes versus the Iowa State Cyclones, the in-state rivalry next week for 360 Performance Talk and KUHSdenver.com. Once again, I'm going to say, I hope I say it enough, but thanks to Nikki for taking charge today and really participating. Because my goal, that I haven't always shared with everybody, is that Nikki has her own show. That's my goal. And to get to a place where she's in control more than she already is, bringing people to your attention and product and support and service about what she does, because functional nutrition is something that I believe in and is necessary to live the kind of life that represents who you want to be. So.
That's a great way of putting it.
You're welcome.
I love that.
You're welcome. So, if you will, Nikki, we're talking about, environments. Does environment have anything to do with, well, we're talking about caffeine, but environment involving or influencing the consumption of anything for that matter. I know for some of us, tea at a certain time of day. I mean, the British made it famous, right?
Right, yeah.
Tea and biscuits at certain times of the day. It's tea time. And not for golfing, okay? Talking about drinking a beverage. And do you think that there's an influence through environment, through the consumption of pretty much anything, but do you think people have a tendency to consume caffeine at different times more than others?
I think I think it's very social.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's a lot like, having a glass of wine when you're out at a party or something like that. You meet for coffee. I mean, these days you don't even have to drink coffee. You just go, let's go meet for coffee, and that's what you do. You go to a coffee shop and you may not even want the coffee. But I do that sometimes. I may have had a cup of coffee and then I go meet for coffee. I'm like, I'm gonna have another cup of coffee because I'm in a coffee shop, and that's what we do. Is we talk business or nutrition, and
I'm doing that today.
Yeah.
At 3:30 actually.
Right. Exactly.
For coffee.
Yeah. So it's a social thing, and it's fun, and people love the environment around them. I think it's just it's fun. It's like going out and having a glass of wine. Or even eating dinner. People like to go out and socialize and have dinner and enjoying each other, and so you enjoy each other over food, coffee, and wine. It's just what you do.
And now, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of a boardroom, right? You've gone to meetings where they bring out the snacks that are for the board meeting, or maybe it's a morning thing, and the snacks are one versus a midday or evening meeting. But how often is caffeine or coffee part of that?
Always, pretty much. Don't you think?
Well, here's my history.
Okay.
It was predominantly always morning stuff.
Okay.
And then when it got to midday, it was water and soda.
Okay.
And less the coffee stuff.
Yep.
Maybe some tea, depending on who was running it. Might have asked for tea. In the evening, big shift. because then it became more alcohol based.
Yeah.
And then not a lot. So I'm thinking to myself, because of what we're talking about here, myth busting caffeine, talking about the benefits of caffeine, it should be part of every meeting.
Potentially, depending on the person, right?
Well, yeah,
not
right.
if you can't can't handle it. If you're not going to sleep that night, then no way. You know, for me, I think I'm a fast metabolizer. I know I am. I've seen my genetics. But if I have it after 2 o'clock, I'm not going to sleep well.
So here, we're going to promote business again. Because if we educate businesses about the data about metabolism, and that's part of your record of employment, now when you set up a meeting, if you refer to that data, you make sure you have the right accoutrements as well as food and beverage that supports high attention, focus and attention, longevity, endurance, resiliency, all of those things. I'm not saying we're going to hit on every single one of those by just using caffeine, but it certainly is going to change the paradigm of most of the admin people in setting up a meeting, because now they're engaged in, my effort helps actually this thing go well.
It's really true. I mean, whether it's for a meeting, for a game, for your day, you want to. It's just with food, with drinks, you want to give yourself as much as you can give to prepare you for what you're about to do. And so caffeine may do that, the right foods may do that, because the wrong foods are definitely going to bog you down. You drink a big sugary drink, it's going to bog you down. So you want to prepare for any situation with that in mind, and a lot of people don't.
And as you say that, I'm reminding myself of what we did as coaches before the game started, like on a Saturday game for colleges. So tomorrow at about 11 o'clock, all over the country, or maybe put it this way, because the games will start at different times. 3 hours before game time, right? What are the coaches doing? Well, the players are waiting to get on the bus, or they're in the locker room, whatever. What do the coaches do? Well, the coaches are in a boardroom at a hotel, looking at a TV monitor of all the other games that have already started all over the country.
Right.
So there's a wet bar of beverages.
Okay.
And typically, depending on if it's a midday game, like a 1 or 2 o'clock game start, at 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning, that wet bar is full of sodas, sugar drinks. It's also got snacks on it that it was just, look, give me that platter. It's not fruits, it's not vegetables, it's not organic and natural stuff so that it fits your, or even consideration.
Cookies and crackers and
Jell-O.
Oh.
Plastic containers of Jell-O.
Oh, and the plastic on top of that. That's...
Oh yeah, and I can't tell you how many coaches pick up that stuff, put it in their backpacks, and take it to the stadium, so that at halftime. And look at these are old time habits that have developed over years and years of moms and administrative people helping them out, thinking they're helping them out.
Yeah.
So we got a big paradigm shift here.
Yeah.
Because coaches have to be sharp as well as the players.
Sure. Something that I'm really curious about, and I don't think that we've covered this already, but I'm curious if you have noticed. So, say somebody is their peak performance, they're drinking caffeine in whatever form, but then over time, maybe their performance drops off a bit. Have you noticed that maybe the effects of caffeine drop off a bit?
I have to say a qualified yes.
Yeah.
And the qualifier is this. I don't necessarily know as much about their ability to metabolize. And then so now I'm even more heightened about wanting to know that when I go back to my athletes.
Yeah.
The second piece is that the circumstances have a lot to do with either the enhancement or the reduction of the metabolism. So here's an example. So we're in Hawaii with the football team, and we've done some wonderful things flying over, with keeping them up and not letting them sleep and this kind of stuff, because we want to acclimate their day with the time change and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we get to the game, and it was an evening game in Hawaii, and we thought we had the guys properly hydrated, and one of them two of them happened to, but one of them for sure had been drinking some of the power drinks before the game started.
Yeah.
And it surprised me, and I blamed it, a myth, I blamed it on the drink that he had 2 liters of IV put in him at halftime.
Oh.
Now we're in Hawaii, high humidity,
Yeah.
but it's a night game, so the temperature wasn't that high. Very, very pleasant. So I'm thinking to myself, what happened to his body that I want to know about, so that doesn't happen again? And he was one of 2 guys that we put 2 liters of fluid into them, and only 2 guys. Everybody else was fine. So I'm going, what was it about them? Well, one of them that didn't, I don't know for sure, but I didn't see him not consume caffeine. He had not really eaten well, and that's part of who he is. His midday, the brunch meal we had, he does not like to eat.
Yeah.
So I learned from that experience, I've got to give him encouragement to eat nutrients
Yeah.
that are not food that he's traditionally thinks is food, because he'll throw it out.
Okay.
And it won't do any good. So I've got to get him. So we actually, over time, gave him IVs of nutrients.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's in his system and it doesn't affect him the same way
Right.
in his gut. The other kid who I had seen take the caffeine, I went, man, it's the caffeine that dehydrates. Because I'm thinking it's a stimulant, it's a dehydrant, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so it's a myth. So now I'm thinking to myself, yes, there is a drop off, but I don't know that it's directly related to the caffeine. I think it might be circumstances, temperature, activity level, demand on his muscle and structural systems. Because the one guy he's a lineman, and so he's getting pounded all the time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, gosh, what is it about the scenario?
Think about the sugar.
Yeah. That's a
Think
good
about
one.
what's in. So a couple of things that I would say on that. So the sugar is going to create a whole bunch of issues. It's going to throw your electrolytes way out of balance. I think that that's a huge piece of why something like that's going to happen on the field. The cramping up. And so if you do the caffeine, but stay away from the sugar.
Okay, let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
Pre-game, as well as at halftime, we have snacks. And I won't mention any product names,
Sure.
but major companies that are into beverages have developed snacks.
Yep.
Little gummy
Yep,
things
yep,
with
yep.
little gel inside the gummies, right? And they taste good.
I'm sure they do.
These guys, they're doing packs of these
Well, they
things.
think it's healthy because it's going to give them that quick energy.
Right. And now, as you're saying it, I'm remembering that my guy loves, the lineman loves those things. So I'm thinking that sugar that you got pregame and then halftime, because it hit him just before ready to leave the locker room, he started feeling funny. So I'm wondering if the sugar, because the minute he comes in, he gets a packet of that stuff.
Yeah.
Before he sits down with the position coach to go over what they want them to focus on for the second half. And before we left the locker room, that's when the 2 of them got hit with it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking their body processed that sugar quickly.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of the right nutrients. Just too much sugar.
So do you think we do enough data gathering about our nutritional self from a standpoint of data, chemical reports of who am I as a...
You mean as individuals?
Yeah.
So no, I think that's the big part of being accountable for our own health. We have our specialists who specialize in what in coaching and mental conditioning and so forth, and I specialize in nutrition.
Yeah.
So we can't specialize in everything. That's why we have our own specialties.
Yep.
And so seeking out the help, whether it's me or somebody else that has the answers. I don't know all the answers I don't know a lot of answers when it comes to business. So I have business coaches. That's what we do. We need to seek out those who know so much more than we do.
Yeah.
And so who can help us gather that data and learn who we are as individuals genetically, environmentally, because our environment affects us, as well as metabolically. It's all, we need to know who we are so we can be accountable for our own health and not have somebody else say, this is what you need to do.
So I know you're a big data gatherer.
Yeah.
When clients come to you, you have a whole process you take them through. Talk to me a little bit about moms and dads sending their kids to school. They have a physical they have to take, right? Every year.
Yep.
Now, if they're an athlete, they take the same physical. I'm thinking, based on what we just said, that's not enough. That the data they get on that physical is not enough to prepare them, nutritionally in this case.
Yeah.
And as it relates to caffeine, because even the kids are getting their little caffeine, well, not necessarily caffeine drinks, but high school age and college age kids with caffeine drinks. Good morning, Janice. So I'm wondering if I may even go on a mission here and try to get physicians that I know to recommend moms and dads sending their kids, their student athlete kids to them, so they get better nutritional profiles that they then can share with the trainer groups. Say, look, if you're planning on giving out those snacks, pregame, halftime practices, whatever, stop.
Yeah.
Get a different one that reduces the sugar, and just give them an apple.
Funny how that works. Yeah, an apple with some almond butter, pretty dense.
I know, the almond butter thing.
Yeah, it's not peanut butter.
I love peanut butter. Do they make chunky almond butter?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe I gotta give that a try because peanut butter and honey. I've got a guy that we hide.
Raw honey.
Oh my gosh.
The best. Yeah.
So anyway, I got this squirrel. Got off track a little bit.
Lots of squirrel.
Exactly. So it's the caffeine. I'm gonna blame it on the caffeine. So what are some of the components that we should have in that profile so that we keep it economically reasonable, but at the same time informative for moms and dads to have a good foundational understanding that the kids are getting evaluated and get data that's going to help them be a better athlete and prepare them for any distress they might incur.
Sure. You know, I think it's always important to do a good metabolic panel. So it includes your chemistry, your CBC, those, and understanding your thyroid, understanding your blood sugars, understanding your adrenals, all of that stuff has.
Are there multiple levels, the A1C, the blood sugars?
Multiple levels.
I mean, like with thyroid, or not thyroid, with cholesterol, you've got, HDL, LDL, that kind of stuff. Are there different slices to that?
So you have blood glucose, which is your immediate. So if your blood glucose, if you don't eat, if you're fasting, your blood glucose is going to be wherever it is for fasting. But it will obviously go up if you're not fasting. That's why we always want to see what your fasting glucose is. So
Gotcha.
where your A1C, some people will say it's a 3-month snapshot
Those
of your
are two,
blood sugar.
glucose and A1C.
Yep.
Okay.
And then some will say that it's more like a 6-week snapshot. So, who truly knows? I tend to believe it's more of a 6-week snapshot of your blood glucose. And so knowing that, because if that's elevated, that means that your blood glucose is constantly elevated, which is more a metabolic factor.
So what you're telling me is that knowing the behaviors of middle school and high school kids, and even college kids, there should be done a blood chemistry on the sugars alone sometime like June or July, right after school's out, in the summer, so that you can see that and compare it to an August or September blood sugar, because their activities are different.
Yeah,
They're eating
I think that would
differently.
be really interesting.
Yeah, so that way you have this profile as a mom or dad, so that not only is what they're doing at school, what they eat, what they get from the trainers and coaches is on target, but what you put in the cabinet. See, because I tell my athletes, you need to be responsible for making your lunches. If you're not going to eat cafeteria food, then you need to be responsible for your lunches. Now that's for various reasons. One is the mechanical side of it, just being responsible.
Sure.
But also being aware of what am I putting in my body.
Yep.
Especially with my high school females, huge thing with them, especially my track and field kids, because they get. I have one little girl. She's not so little, but she just would get scared about the lack of menstruation.
Oh gosh.
Because the runners, they may go
That's a problem.
6-8 weeks.
That's a problem.
And they go, and it doesn't happen to all of them right away.
Yeah.
Just because they're training hard.
Overtraining.
But once they get into a certain level of training hard, and they're at a certain age, it becomes like I've got an Olympic runner that had that kind of scare. She thought she was pregnant again.
Yeah.
And she had forgotten what that was like and what it felt like. And she had changed her diet, so it elongated her cycle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of digress, but the nutritional component and awareness to what goes in your body is huge. So sugar, A1C, glucose, any other components?
So glucose and blood sugar, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing. I think knowing your whole metabolic panel is really important. So they can include your proteins, it's a liver panel, it's magnesium and phosphorus and all the things. But then there's the CBC, looking at your blood
Yeah.
cell counts
Yeah.
and your platelets. And
Well,
your,
especially white, I mean, because kids, they get inflammations and illness and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The flu season is coming on. I don't know if you know that.
It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "No, really, is there a flu season?" No, there's not really a flu season. This is the same bugs are around all the time. We tend to not eat as well. We drink too much during the seasons,
okay, I got you.
right?
I got
So
you.
Christmas and holidays, and then people are in school and they're close to each other, and germs are passed. So it's flu season just for reasons.
Okay,
for those
so
reasons,
with that
but
point, what do you say? Don't hug, don't shake hands.
germs are good. Germs are good, and so I don't want to. I things like washing your hands and doing the
Germ block.
Germ block. Thank you. These are important things. But we also don't want to overdo these things where our immune system is not able to handle these germs.
I was a dirty kid.
So good.
I was really dirty.
Good. I was too.
I shoveled manure in their bare feet.
I remember you told me that last
Oh
time.
yeah. It was. I loved it, but it's disgusting thinking back. Just going. Well, it is what it is. And you do what you do as a
You
kid.
do. I rode horses and played with dogs and played in the woods and rode bikes, and we were disgusting, but it was the most fun. And we were outside, right? So many people just stay inside all the time now, and that's a huge problem.
Well, it's both a captive environment as well as an exclusive environment. You don't let things in, and you don't let things out.
Yeah.
So you're a victim of whatever you've created. Okay.
Yeah.
So that being said, we're getting close to the close of the show, and I want to summarize a little bit. So we're talking about caffeine and its impact and influence on
And many other things.
Yeah, of course we always do that.
I know.
So give me your summarization of our theme for today: caffeine and its influence, both myth and truth.
Yeah, I think it is both. Well,
It should be less myth and more truth,
You're
right?
right, less myth, but there's always the but. There's always the gray area. So I think caffeine, for the most part, has gotten a really bad rap.
Okay.
I rarely, unless I'm doing a true detox with my clients, rarely do I tell them you have to stop coffee. I just tell them to drink the right coffee and the right things to put in it. Let's not put the creamers and the nasty processed junk in it, and sugar. But we also have to take into consideration who we are as individuals, because not everybody can handle coffee for various reasons.
Yeah.
So, but for the most part, I think the myth has been busted.
Good. Well, that being said, I think there are some people I know, and you know who you are. You should not drink coffee and drive.
Oh.
Because you don't stay on the road very well. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Molly, you're fine. But seriously, I think there are. I had myths. I thought there were some myths out there.
Yeah.
I think I've grown through them a little bit. But there's more importantly, I think, knowing the purity about the truth, good quality stuff. And you mentioned about the molds and that kind of thing. I think that's a good thing to think about, regardless of coffee beans or any kind of food. Just be aware of what you do. Like you had mentioned to me, the containers I put food in. So I'm thinking, instead of leaving my coffee beans in the bags they come in, I should put them in a silicone-based or glass container.
I think most of the bags are like aluminum. So
they've
probably
got some
not.
kind
It's
of
the kind of a sort of a metal component. So probably not the worst thing. Plastic's not the best. We want to stay away from plastic. So if you need
Sorry,
to put
Tupperware. Sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty stuff. Yeah.
They got a really big business. Hard to back away from that.
Yeah.
So another concluding remark from me is one, thank you, Nikki. You did a great job. See, you are better than you give yourself credit for, girl. She's going to have her own show. And functional nutritionist. The other piece I want to mention is thanks to KUHSdenver.com and the crew back at the studio. We're gonna be remote again next week on Saturday instead of Friday. So we'll maybe do an encore show. I'll talk to Henry about that for Friday. Just for those of you who are real schedule monsters, you want to stay in the schedule and routine, we'll do an encore perhaps on Friday, but Saturday is going to be kick, and you fill in the blank. It's going to be kick. And we're going to have fun at Sports Column Bar down on Blake Street. with the folks down there and celebrate the Iowa State Iowa game in Iowa City at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. We are hoping, we're making a plan. I hope the plan gets involved. That we're gonna talk to some folks on campus during the show. Technology allows us to do that. So, last remarks. What do you got to say?
Let's go get some coffee.
Yeah, you're due. You're due for coffee. We're at Starbucks on 92nd and Sheridan. This is Lowell White, your host of 360 Performance Talk with Nikki Burnett, functional nutritionist. So glad to have you with us. Tune in next week for our show, and just enjoy the day. It's
a beautiful day.
Oh, and fall's coming, isn't it?
It is.
You can feel it.
The leaves are turning.
And I just think about smells. I smell fall.
Yeah.
You can just kind of.
You can. It's that something in the air. It's beautiful.
It's there. So we're gonna tune off of the webcam for our Facebook feed right now. So thank you everybody and have a great day. Goodbye.
All right. Bye guys. Thank you.
Now we're still on
Bye,
Ustream.
Tanya.
Our international people. We're going to be with you for just a bit as we
Talk
close
to you
things off.
soon.
All people are on.